Vivienne MacKinder, one of the most highly respected hairdressers of today. She's British-born icon who migrated to the US several years ago and cultivated a massive, successful career there. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and see us today so we can have a little chat. We did start the conversation yesterday, but we've had to finish it today, actually.
Because I needed to wear a different dress.
You needed to wear a different dress. But look at our location. Isn't it beautiful, everybody? I mean, we're in Salon International 2019. Absolutely thrilled to be here, actually. But I was able to get you for a few moments. Anyway, listen, tell our viewers a little bit about you, your legacy. I mean, it's so enriched with so much great stuff over the years. You've worked with some incredible people. And you're an incredible person yourself. I mean, you've taught so many amazing people that have come through the industries. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about you and where it started off?
Well, Paul, before I go there, I just want to congratulate you for what you're doing with Hairdressing TV Live. No, it's not Hairdressing TV, it's Hairdressing Live.
Hairdressing Live, yeah.
I just want to congratulate you because it's a really big, great thing that you're doing, and you're just adding value and you're bringing iconic hairdressers to your platform. So I think it's amazing, and obviously anyone who's watching this understands that. So thank you for that.
I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So my career has been a long career, and it's fascinating all these years later to still have the passion for what I do and to be here at Salon International as a student. And I think it's very appealing to be a lifelong learner because it keeps you humble, and I think that probably the successful hairdressers still have curiosity, humbleness, and they just want to carry on growing. So it's great to be here and to see some of the people that I have been associated with on stage still creating magic. So that's incredible.
I hear that word come up an awful lot, which is so valuable. It's curiosity, isn't it? I mean, to be curious in this industry is so imperative. I mean, for you to develop and grow, I mean, to challenge yourself,
Absolutely.
I mean, it requires a lot of curiosity.
Yeah.
I mean, for me to progress to the next level, you really need to take challenges, and curiosity basically underlines that point, doesn't it?
Well, it's the why, and I think behind creativity, the why you do something is what is the underscore to motivation, because if your why is big enough, the willpower is there.
Yes,
but if you don't know the why you're doing this and the why you're doing what you do, then you get lost in the plot. And for me, my beginnings were very humble at the London College of Fashion because I thought I was going into film and theatre. I went to Sassoons, did a course there, offered a job which just blew me away, became an artistic director at Sassoons. Didn't know that you could travel the world doing hairdressing, didn't know you could do photo shoots. And I was thrown in at a very green time where there was nobody to teach me how to work on a fashion show or how to work on set. And so I literally failed forward. I confess, I cried in lots of toilets because
Failed forward. I like that.
it was very sad.
I know. I love that, the way you said that.
Yeah, and joined Trevor Sorbie, who humbled me immensely, taught me the razor, taught me how to move and manipulate hair, taught me how to translate, interpret ideas, and explore what creativity is. Trevor Sorbie one time came to me when I was prepping a show in America. This is a funny story. Actually, it wasn't funny at the time. I worked on this collection. I was really struggling because, you know, when you're not in an environment that supports your creativity, whether it's a toxic model, toxic client, something toxic, it can close down all your creative energies. I wasn't happy in America, and I was struggling, and I was lonely, and blah, 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 blah,
Was this at the start of being in America?
Start of it. So I was still working for Trevor Sorbie, building the brand in the United States, building an artistic team, which was somewhat daunting.
You were left to your own devices then. Were you really, or was it the support from some of the team?
I was building.
You were building,
I was it.
Okay,
when Trevor came over, he was like thank God you've arrived. So he comes in, and I had this collection I've been working on, and he walks in and he's silent. And he looks at the collection and he says to me, Viv, there's a fine line between creativity and bad taste.
Wow.
I was silent. I could feel the lower lip starting to tremble. I could feel the tears welling in my eyes. And I said, Trevor, which one am I? He said, bad taste.
Wow.
He said, I think you lost it. And I went, I've lost it? Could I have lost it that quickly? He said, you better rethink this whole thing. And I was like, it was one of the most painful things, but the most brilliant things, because it was like, you know, sometimes you try too hard, pull back a bit, don't add so many elements. And when you look at imagery that's withstood the passage of time, or techniques that have withstood the passage of time, they are actually quite simple. And the more we embellish, the more bohemian or the more done they become, very often they start to lose their value. And if you want something to last, stay as close to classics, but give it a twist.
I totally agree. I couldn't agree more, actually. When you look at, icons over the years, the Audrey Hepburns, the Marilyn Monroes, and as hairdressers, we try and perfect it too much. But when you pull it back a little bit, if you look at Marilyn Monroe's hair, it's kind of shaggy. It's a little bit soft. The silhouette is kind of perfect, but when you look into the detail, it's kind of a little bit looser and more uncapped, if you like.
Yes.
And it's the same with Audrey Hepburn. That iconic, Breakfast at Tiffany's, iconic image. The French roll. It's kind of loose. It's loosely done, rather than it being too perfected.
Yes.
I always sort of say that in my classes as well. It's very important that you try and over perfect it, you kind of lose it.
Yeah,
do you know?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But listen, tell me, you were with Sassoons before that as well, weren't you? Tell me about your role in Sassoons.
Well, as artistic director, it was always about trying to inspire, lead, motivate, come up with new ideas, and always be ahead of the curve. So sometimes you do things that were creative, but not always the prettiest thing. And I think back then it was about trying to impress hairdressers versus really impress the client.
Yeah.
And we would do really great haircuts, but I think sometimes we lost the plot. I did, in terms of, well, is that the best thing for her bone structure? Is that really the best thing for her lifestyle? But she's got a genius haircut. So, that was where I think that the discipline was really important, and understanding architecture, because once you have the foundation, when you learn the rules, then you can break the rules.
Yes,
but if you don't have that foundation, which is the hardest thing, whether you're a dancer or a musician, foundation and classics are with what stands the passage of time. And I think that's where it begins and ends.
Amazing to hear you say that as well. It's so important that people want to leapfrog into the creativity, don't they? To leapfrog and be there at the top. But it's the fundamentals that mean an awful lot to how hair sits, or the way it moves around, the head shape and everything.
Yes.
For it to sort of for you to break the rules, you need to learn the classics.
Well, Marcel Wave, right?
Yeah.
I learned that at college, and it was a long, arduous task, and I was taught by a master with the Marcel iron that you put in the oven. So I learned the classic way. I thought, I'm never going to use that. Then years passed by, and for my website, I made a film called 100 Years of Hairdressing.
Yeah.
So I researched all the original footage, and I got footage in the film that goes back to 1910.
Okay.
And it's amazing footage, and then you see the beautiful Marcel waves, the finger waves, and then the pink pearl waves, and you see the evolution of the wave ultimately to a roller set wave. And I thought, well, will I ever really, really use that in New York, which is where I'm now based? And the first fashion show I did in New York, guess what? The designer wanted waves. So I reach out to a team and I say, can you Marcel wave? Because if you can't Marcel wave, we're in trouble. And they went, yeah, we can do it. Well, they couldn't.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was
I said... technique, isn't it?
It's a classic technique, right? So I had said, you do the back, and I'm going to go down 20 heads, and I'm going to do a Marcel wave, next one Marcel wave. And I literally did 20 Marcel waves in 2 hours.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But it was like, wow, thank you, London College of Fashion, and thank you, Trevor, because Trevor also reinforced that for me. So you never know when it's going to show up. And I would say, too, it's easy to be a hair snob.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I don't use foils, or oh no, I don't use this, or oh no, I will never use the razor, or oh no, I would only use these scissors. But I think if you have a really open mind and you understand the right tool for the job, and understand there's a way to use the technique and then reinvent the technique. If you're not a hair snob and you just keep a really open mind, you don't handicap yourself, because who wants to design with a handbrake on or with handcuffs on, right? So I think that as I've got older, I'm more curious, and I will look at something and think, that's really interesting. Now, how would I do that?
Okay, yeah.
I think you have to do that today.
Yeah, very much so. Look, I'm not looking at my phone here. These are my notes. I actually lost my notepad yesterday. Left it in the airport, actually, to be honest with you. I have a very valid question. Hairdressing isn't just a visual thing. It's a lifestyle. And it creates feeling, which is something I believe you really have a strong value towards about consultation. Could you dig deeper a little bit for us, or dive a little bit deeper into that consultation that you provide throughout your education?
Absolutely. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed Eugene when he was presenting for you in front of that amazing live audience, as opposed to being a dead audience. They were very alive. If I'd been there, I would have had a meltdown, but he was brilliant. And what he told was the story of when he works with a designer on a fashion show or a campaign. It's a story. And it's not a woman wearing a red dress. It's a story of that woman is bohemian, or that woman has a certain lifestyle that is supported by everything within the image, the way it's photographed, etc. And he's given a brief, and whether you call it a mood board, a brief, whatever, it's a story. And every person who sits in our chair has a story. And because today it allows, through all the social media, for each person to have a voice, and each person can make themselves as big or as small as they want through their own blog, through Instagram, or whatever the platform is. You've got people now who are searching for their own identity versus being cloned into a very specific thing. So today you can have a bohemian woman who's on track, a rock and roll woman, a classic woman, a romantic. You can have all different genres that support the lifestyle that they lead. And that's really amazing. So I suppose when I watched Eugene, it reminded me of how I grew up and how my consultation developed. And I like to design it from the inside out, because what is your personality and what are your values? So the first thing that I look at is how quiet or loud to make something be, because you could do rock and roll quiet and you could do rock and roll loud, right? And then I look at where do they live within fashion? You know, are they minimal? Are they embellished? So what is their fashion story? What do they gravitate to? And then the final thing I look at is the sensuality of the woman. And I know that certain hairstyles or certain hairlines are going to make a woman look tough. Certain ways of moving the hair around the face are going to create sternness or softness. So do you feel alive as a woman when you're sensual? Do you feel alive as a woman when you're sexy? Do you feel alive when you're romantic? You know, where do you live? So I know that a hairstyle can visit that wheel of sensuality. And sometimes I've done a brilliant haircut that may be too quiet. I've done a brilliant haircut
What do you mean
that's
by
too
quiet,
loud.
by the way?
Quiet, it whispers. She walks into the room and you'd hardly notice it.
Like a wallflower?
Yes.
Okay.
Or the colour is so understated. Or the makeup is so understated, you've got to look for it. Versus she walks in and all heads turn. Now some people want to walk into a room and not be noticed. They just want to just...
They're quite happy to fit in,
Quiet as a church mouse, right? And others are very, very, I've arrived. So you have different personalities. So when I design from the inside out, and I do that first, technique ends up being the last thing on my wheel, where technique used to be first. I think technically, what am I going to do? Technically, it's going to have layers. Technically, it's going to live here. Technically. And I would describe the hairstyle in layman's terms. The layers will be da-da-da-da-da-da, and the why. Why is very important. Then I would look at the face shape. Well, I think that will suit her face. A little bit of face shape. And then hopefully it's going to suit her personality and lifestyle. Hopefully, you know, how much time do you spend on your hair? How often can you come in for your services? Those are lifestyle questions, right? I flipped it all the way right the way around. So now I look at I call it the three wheels of fashion. So now I explore their three wheels of fashion first, so that they know that I understand them. So like when I look at you, you've got this adorable little hat on, which reminds me of the little character from the 1920s. What was it? Ollie and Stanley?
Okay, I don't know, but I will research that afterwards.
It's so cute, and you wear it so cute. And then you've got this kind of rock and roll jacket, right? And you've got this kind of eclectic mix, so you're not 100% rock.
No belt today, actually. I've left my belt at home, actually, so my trousers are falling off me. But
trousers are falling down at the end of this interview. They may be around his ankles, which is another fashion statement. Don't know what that is, but it's kind of an eclectic mix that you have going on, right? And so when you capture that first, it's how you like to show up in the world. Now, if the hairstyle fits how you show up, and now it supports the face shape, which is hugely important, then you have something where that person skips out of the salon so happy because it feels authentic. And in a day where it's not one fashion, it's anything and everything, that's how you tap into the essence of who that person is.
Okay.
So what am I saying? You're not a groomer anymore, you're an image expert.
Yes.
You're designing head to toe, the way that a Eugene would design head to toe, the way that any of the majors, Sam McKnight, would design head to toe, because they're looking at the totality. And we're not heads, we're total, aren't we?
Yeah, full imagery,
and my goal is always to make the face shape oval. You cannot go wrong.
No, you're very, very true there. Can I just add what you've just mentioned there? I mean, where do trends fit into that? You know, you're talking about personality. I mean, I think it's very, very important to create something which has, you know, suitability and it's an individual look. But then again, trends always move in such a way that client, one of the first questions that they will come in and go, where are the trends going, do you know? And you've got to fit those trends into, you know, do you take those into consideration?
I do, and that may be the way that it's blow dried. This is more, like it's a more dragged down blow dry, it's less of a round blow dry. So that aspect, but also...
More of the dressing, really.
Okay, so here's a good example. When the very first ombre came out, what was that, 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And we saw these dark...
It's called different things, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what it was called then, but it was dark with blonde ends, which pre that would have been, oh my gosh, that woman hasn't had her hair coloured in that many years, right?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the first few thinking, who on earth is going to wear a grown-out colour?
Yeah.
Who's going to sell a grown-out colour? Because she could come to you in 3 years' time and it's still grown out.
Yeah.
So how will we get repeat business on hair colour that's living down here?
Yeah.
And I think that's never going to catch on.
Right?
And look at how it did catch on, and look at how it's evolved. And now the conservative people who are the last ones to jump on the bandwagon are now asking for it. The trendy people, the people who are original, the innovators are like, don't you dare do that on me, that's so dated, because it's been around 15, 20 years. So the circle of fashion is always moving. So it's the circle you live in today. So rock and roll has its own fashion wheel. Bohemian, hippie has its own fashion wheel. Classic has its own fashion wheel. So you first of all find out where she lives, and then you can kind of then adapt. And ironically, you're going to attract who you are. So if you're very eclectic, you're going to have a client that says, oh, I like to wear my hair 3 different ways. If you're very classic, you're going to attract that. So the law of attraction is powerful. That's why on your social media you have to have intentionality. What's my intention, and what do I want to get by my post? Do I want to say that I'm the most expensive, sophisticated? Do I want to say that I'm relaxed and bohemian? Where do I live within that realm? Because you've got to have intention, and then it comes back to you.
Yeah, very true. That's a brilliant answer. That's more than what I actually was expecting, actually. Can I just ask you, is there anything that you would change about your career as a hairdresser? Is there anything that you wanted to do, or do you think you've covered everything?
Well, I came into this industry to go into the theatrical side, so I became a wig maker, and I learned all that side. And as fascinated as I am by the theatrical aspect of our industry, I know that I don't have the aptitude for repetition. So there's a part of me that every so often would say, oh gosh, you know, if I'd gone into film, where would I be right now? But I wouldn't have enjoyed it, because I would have enjoyed designing the hair and doing it the first day, and then the second day, and then the third day. I love the newness. So that comes up sometimes. I often wonder, had Trevor not sent me to America,
where would you be?
I would obviously still be in England, and what would that have looked like? But you know, the good times and the hard times in particular shape you to who you are today.
They are indeed. And something you said to me when we first met was, are you enjoying the process?
Yeah.
Do you know? Are you enjoying the process of going through, cultivating your avenue in life? Because you do hair designer TV, which is remarkable, actually. I mean, it's unique, innovative of its time, and possibly years ago, we were chatting about this yesterday. It's quite inventive, and plus not to have the resources back then because technology hadn't kind of moved through. That must have been quite a challenge setting that up, right?
Well, sometimes when you don't know that you don't know, you just sort of dive into it, and you're right. You know, Hair Designer TV was born 20 years ago, and then it had to go on back burner because technology didn't support it.
That's right,
And then there weren't iPads, there wasn't the iPhone, there was dial-up. So I had so many roadblocks because of technology, and the platforms we have today have made it available so that anyone really can go online and do whatever they want to do online. Whether they can make a business out of online is a whole nother conversation, because it's relatively new technology. So that was very humbling to go through a process that I didn't go to school for film. I didn't go to school for journalism to interview people. I didn't go to school for any of this technology stuff. So I had to surround myself with people that spoke a different language to me, and that was interesting and frustrating.
I too didn't do that, right? and I love that about what you've just said. I am fascinated. I'm quite practical. If I don't know, I will find out, or I'll try and find out, or get people around me that will, can feed me this information. So I'm quite practical that way. Because again, I didn't go to college for all these things, but editing or like film or interviewing, kind of have to wing it, don't you, to a certain extent, and build confidence in that area. Look, you have worked. I know we have to shoot on to one of the shows. You have worked on with many designers, lead stylist on many shows, worked on many photo shoots, celebrities, worked with some incredible hairdressers over the years, or educated some incredible hairdressers over the years. What would your highlight be of your career? What would, if I asked you that question?
Actually, well, there's so many, which is what a blessing, how there's been so many. I mean, I can think of the amazing shows I did with Trevor that were just a magical experience from the beginning to the end. And I think that when you enjoy who you become on your journey, you're creating memories in your memory bank, and no one can take that away from you. Getting nominated, receiving the award for Lifetime Achievement was quite nice to have that. But it was like, my career's not over, I'm not done yet. So that was really weird, but it was also lovely. But I would say, when I do a really good photo shoot, I'd say nice one, but it's still not good enough. Hair Designer TV has become, now that there's 900 videos living there, it's an encyclopedia now. So that's been an incredible journey of learning, which I have loved, been tormented by, but actually do love that platform of sharing knowledge and helping people grow, because that's powerful. That never gets old, because it's making over hairdressers' lives. A good makeover, I never get tired of that. But I would say one of the most memorable things was making the film with Vidal Sassoon. Calling him, Vidal, will you be in this documentary? Trevor Sorbie, will you be in the documentary? Robert Labetta, will you be in this documentary? I'm blessed to know you, to know your lives. I want to share the intimacy of your lives with other hairdressers to inspire them, to give them hope. And I want to share your challenges and your struggles as well as your victories and your success. Because everyone sees the success, but they don't see the struggle behind the success. And if they were to see some of the pain and the suffering that goes on to get to that place, I think that would give the viewer more hope and more courage to follow a dream and pursue it. So that was a big highlight, to do the I'm Not Just a Hairdresser film series. And there I worked with a journalist who was a photographer, and he was the one that coached me on all of the interviews and said, no, you can't do this question comes here, this question comes here. And he structured the whole thing for me, and it was like, why do I do that? And he said, when you interview, and this is good for a consultation, so this is powerful, you reverse engineer. You know the answer you want out of their mouths, so you give them the question that will evoke that answer. So it's not a yes or a no. So when you're talking to your client, so you reverse it. And that's really a great consultation. Like, how do you feel when you have your hair cut too short? Because what you want to find out is that answer. You have to ask those questions.
So
very,
very important. Very, very important. Do you know what? It's been amazing. and we have to let you go now because I know there's a show which we're about to go to. So I just want to say thank you very much for joining us and spending the time. I could chat to you for ages.
We could have a good chat. Well, I have to come back.
You'll have to come
do
back.
Hair.
You'll have
they
to
still
do,
work,
have
you
to
know.
do hairdressing live, actually. That's what we must do, actually.
Yeah, I'll do some hair for you. This is how you back home.
Thank you very much, anyway. Thank you very much.
Paul.
There you go.